outside of New Orleans. We started drinking and I asked him, Billy, ever had one getaway? He said, when they run, it don't matter. We all get judged someday. Behind a cigarette, he told me how a rich man murdered his wife. With his money, he conjured up a story and bought himself an alibi. It takes a good one to hang a jury, and gave a wink when the verdict was read. I said, Billy, how'd you endure it? And this is what he said. Don't you ever step foot in a bayou at night, the hurricane's coming to town. Waters climb, mercury rise, creatures coming out of the ground. Make it live his life and dream his dreams, pretending he will always be free. Between the good Lord, the gators, and the hurricanes, pay the piper guaranteed. The night crept on forever, and Billy kept buying the drinks. Started talking about the weather, said he could feel the storm brewing. So I said goodnight and I went for the door, felt heavy on my feet. Before I made it home that night, the rain started falling. Billy watched that man for years, and no one suspected a thing. When the thunder crashed, so did Billy, struck just like lightning. When the man woke, he was in the swamp, tied up to a cypress tree. When he felt something move under that water, he knew he would never be free. Don't you ever step foot in a bayou at night, the hurricane's coming to town. Waters climb, mercury rise, creatures coming out of the ground. Make it live his life and dream his dreams, pretending he will always be free. Between the good Lord, the gators, and the hurricane, pay the piper guarantee. Met an old man down in Louisiana, Billy Boudreaux was his name. He tipped his hat and winked at me the night he put me in my grave.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Lamog. I'm an instructor with Guitars for Vets Cyber Chapter and with Cav Arts, the Challenge America Veteran Arts Community. Welcome to Song Sung True, a Veterans Viewer Tonight. We feature the songs and stories of U.S. Army and Operation Iraqi Freedom veteran John Hensley. How's it going?
It's going great, man. Thanks for having me on.
It was wonderful having you over the Saturday when we did our live presentation of audio recording devices. And there was one thing that I want to go back on. There was a comment that you had made. The hometown, your hometown, which is?
Yeah, man. I grew up in Newnan, Georgia, and we're about 35, 40 minutes south of Atlanta. And the town's kind of famous because Alan Jackson grew up here. And I always make the joke when I'm playing around town that they won't put my name on the sign with his, but I'm talking to people about it. They just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Well, if it's just a sign, you can make one for yourself.
Yeah, I just put a post-it note on the bottom, and John.
That'll work. Yeah. Hey, listen, I want to go back to your song.
Yeah.
Billy Boudreaux. Was this the first song that you had written?
No, it is the first one that I released, though, after we recorded it. And, we were really happy with how that one turned out. I actually got the idea for that song. I was sitting in church one morning, and this is the strangest place to get an idea for a song like this, but I was sitting in church, and I go, man, I really got to write a great song about a murder. And then I know, that's what I said, too. And so in my head, I was like, okay, it's got to be in drop D tuning because I want it to have this real swampy feel.
Yeah, that it did.
And I went home and I made the main riff of the song, and then I started with the main part of the chord progression, and I hammered out a verse and a chorus, and then I sent it to my bass player because he's got a degree in music and composition specifically, and so he made some tweaks to it and sent it back and goes, hey, try doing something like this. And then I just finished out the story, over the next few days. And, man, what a cool song it turned out to be. I was really happy with it. So,
well, I have to tell you, after listening to that song, there were a couple of artists that came to mind when I heard that song. I mean, Swampy, Creedence Clearwater Revival, for one. But Travis Tritt, too. There was Travis has been known to do so. I don't know if these are musical influences because.
Oh, yeah.
Are they? Okay. Because you come from, the state of Georgia, James Brown, Ray Charles, Little Richard, Otis Redding, Allman Brothers, REM. I mean, the list goes on of
on and on.
Prominent legendary musicians in the area that you live in. Now, when you wrote that song, are you pulling from those types of influences? This is the music that you grew up listening to?
My dad loved 80s hair bands, which is so funny. Because, I don't really care for that, but he loved it. I started listening to that stuff probably, late teens, the stuff that I liked. And that's kind of when I figured out, hey, this is what kind of music I'm into. And I'm a tremendous Travis Tritt fan, love the Allman Brothers. So I would say I'm very heavily influenced by both of those guys. As a matter of fact, the riff that I got from the song that we just heard is a little bit of a spin-off of a riff from one of Travis Tritt's tunes. He's got a song called... Modern Day Bonnie and Clyde he cut back in the 90s, which I thought was one of his best ones, and I always cover it with my band, and so I kind of took the riff and made it kind of my own because I liked how it sounded.
That's kind of how it works,
Yeah, man, you just figure out that's a good sound. I want to go for that, and yeah.
I mean that area, the Atlanta area itself, just there's so much in the way of legendary music that came from Zach Brown. Now I know that we had talked a little bit about Camp Southern Ground, which he has a tremendous amount to do with, but he's from there. Jason Aldean and Luke Bryan, they're also from there. So the tradition of legendary music in Georgia, particularly the Atlanta area, continues forth, which is pretty awesome.
I'm just happy to be in the conversation with some of those guys. It's normal around here, man. I thought that when I joined the Army, I thought that everybody knew how to play an instrument everywhere. Because everybody I know, you can't go into a party in Georgia and you can hand a guitar to every guy in the room. He'll play you one song for sure.
That's amazing.
It's crazy. This is what we do here. I don't know why.
So knowing that you have this background of being exposed, from great music from the 50s to current day, do you recall your earliest memory of being hooked into music? This has got to be a part of my life.
Yeah, I think I remember when I was, probably about 8 or 10 years old, I was staying over at a friend's house in my neighborhood, And there was an older fella that came by that night, and they were all just hanging out with, he was hanging out with my friend's parents, and he just started to play. Just one guy and a guitar, and I don't think he was great, but to me, he was the most entertaining thing I'd ever seen. When you're a young kid and you see somebody that's making music, it's like watching magic happen live. And I really vividly remember being like, this is the coolest guy I've ever met in my entire life. And he probably couldn't play a lick, but man, he sounded awesome to me.
Do you remember what he played?
Oh man, I can't remember. A bunch of old country tunes. I can't remember any of them because at that time I didn't know anything about those songs, and so it wouldn't have stuck out to me because my dad, like I said, he loved '80s hair metal and just loved it. Def Leppard, it's like, oh, it's the greatest. I'm like, not for me.
Well, do you remember the first song you ever learned to play?
Oh yeah, I remember my first musical connection. So when I first got a guitar, everybody learns how to play a G, C, and a D chord. And I remember sitting there, just my buddy's like, hey, when you're playing these notes, just pick through the notes individually and make sure that all the strings are ringing out properly. That way you're getting the sound. And I remember playing a D chord and I went, and I go, I know this. I go, I'm like, oh, Sweet Home Alabama.
So
and like,
it's so fitting.
yeah, man. And like, I just knew it like immediately. I was like, oh, I know what this is. And I texted my buddy. I called him. I think, dude, Sweet Home Alabama, first chord D. He's like, yeah. Now I figure out the other two there. Wow. And so, I think it was inadvertent, but it was just in my Southern heritage. I'm like, oh, there it is. I know what that is. So.
Did you find that that there were a lot of people that you were surrounded with had that same mindset of, yeah, I got a guitar, I know how to play, or was it more prominent than not? To meet people who had some tie into music.
So my best friend played, and I remember when we were in high school, an earlier musical memory. We were in high school. He brought it in. I brought a guitar in one day, and I can't remember what we were doing, but he played a few songs for the class, and then it just took over what we were doing that day. And again, I remember thinking, this guy's the coolest guy in the world. Look at what he's doing. And everybody's like super into it. And that was kind of like the first time I think I really want to learn how to play and figure out how to do this. And that same friend is who taught me how to play my first couple of chords. And, he doesn't really play anymore, which is hilarious because I play all the time.
Well, you have to change that. I want to go back to your parents. So your dad obviously was a listener. He was a consumer of.
He was.
But were any of the members of your family, did they pursue music as well, like playing an instrument or singing?
I don't think anybody in my family plays at all. Now, I've heard Patsy Cline, her original name, before she got a stage name of Patsy Cline, was Virginia Hensley. And my grandfather said somehow we're distantly related, but I've never confirmed that. So, hard to say.
Thanks for this great introduction about your venture into music, getting hooked in. Sweet Home Alabama, of course, is a natural. I'm thinking, that's kind of like 3 chords. You're right, 3 chords. I was going to say if that wasn't it, then it was Can't You See?
Oh yeah, same song. Yeah. It's the exact same one.
Now I know that you've got a number of songs lined up to perform this evening. First song that you'd like to do for us.
Yeah, so you guys heard my song Billy Boudreaux. That was the first one that we'd ever did, and I sent that to one of our local radio stations, 94.9 here in Atlanta, and it's like the #1 station in Georgia for country music, and they played that song. And so in addition to being my first release, that was my first song I ever got to hear on the radio, which was super cool. And the next one I'll play for you is another song that I wrote that I released at the same time, and it also got played on the radio, and for whatever reason, they played this one a lot longer. I'm not sure why. Musically, it's much more simplistic, but people just liked it, so I got a lot of requests for it, so they just kept playing it, which was great for me because I was just stoked to be there. So,
all right, awesome. All right, John, go for it.
This song is called "Better Be Tough," and it's out on Spotify and Apple Music, whatever streaming platform you have. You can always grab the recorded version, which I think is better because, in the studio you get more than one try. So, this is that song here. I grew up down in a small town. Folks know everyone for miles around. I was the kind of kid who
wouldn't back down when that bullet was picking on me. Next thing I know, I was looking up at the sky, watching the clouds roll by with a shadow on my eye. Can't forget what my daddy said when I got home that night. When he sat me on his knees, he said, if you're gonna be dumb, son, you better be tough. The way you're headed, your life's gonna get real rough. God was giving out brains, you must not have got too much. You wouldn't be doing such foolish things. Better stop thinking before you act, son. Turn your hot head into a cool one. You're gonna learn your lessons well enough. You're gonna be dumb, son, you better be tough. So I got married and I was 22 to a beautiful lady and I had no clue. When she asked me how she looked, what I was supposed to do was come up with a little white lie. She came at me with a frying pan, cussing and yelling something I didn't understand. I woke up in a room getting me a CAT scan, with a doctor preaching to me, saying, if you're gonna be dumb, son, you better be tough. The way you're headed, your life's gonna get real rough. God was giving out brains, you must not have got too much. You wouldn't be doing such foolish things. Better start thinking before you act, son. Turn your hot head into a cool one. You're gonna learn your lessons well enough. If you're gonna be dumb, son, you better be tough. On my way home, I hit my favorite bar. I had a couple of drinks and might have gone a little too far. Don't know how I didn't see that police car with those blue lights following me. If you're gonna be dumb, son, you better be tough. The way you're headed, your life's gonna get real rough. God was giving out brains, you must not have got too much. You wouldn't be doing such foolish things. Better stop thinking before you act, son. Turn your hot head into a cool one. You're gonna learn your lessons well enough. If you're gonna be dumb, son, you better be tough.
John Hensley, everyone.
Hey, thank you.
What a song. And that's the song that got more airplay than
Yeah, that one got a bunch of hits for some reason.
catchy.
I think it's just because it's funny enough where it works.
And it's nice and upbeat. Hey,
Yeah.
you play that with your band, or is that something that you did?
We do, yeah, and it's a fun one because if you listen to the recorded version, we go to double time for the solo, and it's got a real like double time shuffle feel. It's just like doom ticka doom ticka, and my buddy does this chicken picking guitar solo that is just absurd. And people that can really play the guitar, like they hang on for a minute, and then he does this little slur. And then that's where you lose 99% of people that can play the guitar. Because like he's a pro. I mean, this guy's a world-class player.
Yeah.
Just happens to play with me for some weird reason. You know. So.
That's wonderful. Well, let's talk about your band. I mean, we are. Let's see here. We know about the things that you've shared with us so far, the solo works that you've done. But talk to me about, what was it that made you think that I really need to get a band? What was really the catalyst for bringing musicians into the fold to help you out?
Well, the great thing about a band is you really surround yourself with people that are better than you, because what ends up happening is you rise to their level. So it's like, my band is just full of they're great. They're talented musicians, and a lot of these guys have been playing for way longer than me, and I learn things from them all the time. And some of the stuff is just so subtle, and you just absorb it through kind of this organic osmosis of just playing next to them long enough. and it really just sharpens your skills, man. And I'm blessed to have a couple of guys that are just world class players, and for whatever reason they don't mind playing with me. I book all the gigs and I make sure they get paid, and they're just as happy as can be to be there. And it's fun to be able to get with them and create.
Now, so when you went looking for musicians, or did they come looking for you? Well, how did that work out?
Yeah. So, great question. So my bass player, Patrick Thompson, he and I were the first two that started playing together, and I met him through church, and we were just at a small group one day, and I was singing, and he's, the guy's got a degree in how to play the guitar. He's got a jazz guitar performance degree with I think his minor's in like musical composition or something crazy. And so he went to school just to do music, and he's a school music director. And so he multi-instrumentalist, can play everything and play it well. And he said, "Hey, do you know you can sing?" And I said, "Yeah." And so you should come be in the church band. So that's how we started playing together. And then I started playing the bars, and he said, "Hey, I'd like to come sit in with you. We'll do some duo stuff." And I said, "Sure, that'd be great," because I wanted to be able to learn from him. And we did the duo thing for a while, and then I really just wanted to, being in the church band is more fun because you have more instruments, you can just do more. And so I started to kind of pin together people, and just people that I knew. And my lead guitar player, Kevin Walker, he's also from here in Newnan, and Kevin's a hired gun, man. He can really play. Like Zach Brown called him one time because one of their guys got sick, and he sat in with Zach Brown on a day's notice and could learn all the songs that day. Doesn't matter to him. And buddy of mine from college, I've known him 15 16 years, something like that. And then our drummer Armand Grimaldi, his stepdaughter and her husband go to our church, and they saw us playing one night at a bar, and they took some video and they sent it to him, and he just came up to me the next day and was like, "Hey, I'd love to play in your band." And then I Googled him and found out, like, in the 80s, like, he played drums for Chaka Khan. He played drums for Etta James. He played drums for Don Henley from the Eagles. And I was like, "Is this you?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Cool, man, you're in." And he goes, "Do I need to audition?" And I go, "No, not necessary."
What do you suppose brought them or made them interested in coming in to be your band?
My bass player and my guitar player are just my buddies, and we just all have a common, we just love music, and we like to be around each other. And when you like to play and you don't mind the people that you're playing with, it makes it a lot more fun. And Armand, 69 years young, he's just got some more left in him, and is retired now, so doesn't have a full-time job, and just is like, "Man, I'd really love to play." And he's like, "You don't have to even pay me." And I said, "That's not going to happen. You're going to get paid." But and it's great, and he was kind of the last piece to our puzzle, and what an addition he was, because he's just a great musician, dude. The guy can really play. I mean, it's just crazy.
That's so awesome to hear. It's not easy to fill these slots in a band, and when you have people who are like, "I like what you do, and I want to be a part of that," and they're really good. They're really good. That's a real gift. So. Congratulations!
I just got lucky. I wish I could take some credit for it, but
well, you just keep writing them songs, and you keep scoring those gigs. And I'm sure they'll be right there with you.
Mm-hmm.
Are any of them veterans? Are they?
No, I got 2 school teachers, and I got a guy that used to play professionally. So, and he took a job at Delta, which is crazy, working for the airport.
Yeah. The airline. Oh, they're based there too, aren't they?
Yeah, right out of Atlanta. Yeah, that's what he retired from music and went to work for the airline, which is a weird transition, but hey, he did a great job at it.
Oh man, fantastic. Mm-hmm. I want to go back to your career in the U.S. Army, because the thing that caught my eye, and we were talking about this, or maybe we were exchanging emails. It really, when you were in Iraq. And the assignment that was given to you, it was basically on Airfield Operations. And when you described to me what that really meant, I was just like, for me, a kid at heart with these dreams of flying on planes and in helicopters, it was like, oh, I want to hear more about that. Could you share some of your experiences from that time when you were in Airfield Operations and discuss?
Yeah.
You were telling me just what work was involved, and I found that to be really intriguing. I think that might be of interest to our community as well.
Yeah, so I deployed back in 2007, and we were based on a cob called Spiker, which was near the town of Tikrit, which is kind of the northern half of Iraq. And the town's got a local celebrity. Saddam Hussein was actually born there. So he wasn't a great celebrity, but he was a celebrity nonetheless. Everybody knew who he was. And so that's where I was based out of. And basically what I did is I always describe it to people as like, imagine working for Delta, but doing it in the desert. So essentially, in 2007, the Iraq conflict was still, we were right in the middle of it. So it was very dangerous to drive people around the country because of, just IEDs and roadside bombs and ambushes and things like that. So, it was just much safer to fly people around if you could, and so essentially every time people would move from base to base, they would have to be loaded onto the aircraft, unloaded, and you have to keep track of where they're going, right? Because the Army needs to know where everybody is. So you would essentially keep track of the personnel that were coming and going. So we would, on a daily basis, we would put people on, Blackhawks, UH-60s. About 16 people could ride on a Black Hawk to wherever they need to go. Chinooks, you could put about 30 people on that. So those are obviously dual rotary aircraft, and then fixed wing aircraft with the Air Force. We would put people on C-130s and C-17s. And so these are soldiers that are just moving around throughout the theater, as well as guys that are getting ready to go home for R&R or just to demobilize whatever they're doing. And so, yeah, we basically did that for a year, and I think we obviously kept track of the numbers because that's what you do while you're there. And we moved something like 150,000 people over the course of that year, which is just incredible when you think about it. But
150,000 in a year.
Yeah, and you drive them out to the flight line, and we had these crazy 30 passenger buses that were European stick shifts, and so where you think first gear would be is actually reverse. And so they're like, you can drive a stick shift, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm from Georgia, that's what we do. And I hop in this thing and I throw it in what I think is first, but it's not, it's backwards. And so I went backwards.
It's a learning there.
Yeah, but it was interesting. And if you're going to put people on a C-130 or a C-17, you got to make multiple trips with this bus back and forth. Because it's just, you can only get 25 people on the bus, and that plane will hold 100 people,
Oh,
so,
geez. Oh, wow.
A lot of running around, yeah. So interesting stuff. It was a cool gig, but I don't miss it.
And it didn't carry over into your life after you became a veteran. In other words, Delta did not receive an application for it.
Yeah, they never called me, but I don't think I applied, so that's probably why. But you never know with those guys. I wasn't actively recruited, I can tell you that. They weren't like, this guy's great at, getting information for people.
Were you playing music at the time? I think you taught yourself how to play guitar there. Maybe you can share a story about that.
Yeah.
How did you manage that?
Very carefully. So I got a gift. Somebody in my church figured out that I wanted to learn how to play, and because they would see me every time I saw a guitar, I'd pick it up and try to play it. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was just like, hey, I like this thing. It makes noise. And so I got a call from the church secretary at the time, and she said, hey, come up to the church. There's something up here for you. And I got there, and there was a note with my name on it on this new guitar, and it said, delight yourself in the Lord. He'll give you the desires of your heart. And so I took that guitar when I went overseas, and I basically just taught myself how to play guitar on the internet. And I'd get on Ultimate Guitar and look up a song I wanted to learn how to play, and then I'd figured out how to read the tabs. Okay, this is how you make these chord shapes. And then just practiced, that was all I would do when I had free time, was play that thing. And
now, how long have you been playing guitar for?
So I started in 2007, so I guess it's 24, so it's been a pretty good bit now.
Okay.
Almost 20 years, which makes me feel old. It's not good.
Wow. And what are you playing? What are you playing these days? What kind of guitar are you playing?
Oh, man, I bought this thing from the sweetest little old man. This is a Martin D28, and it's way too nice of a guitar for a player of my caliber, but I do like it. So
D28, that's the go-to. Yeah, I would imagine your friends, neighbors, and colleagues probably are envious, perhaps.
I had a friend of mine recently offer to buy it cash that moment. He said, how much do you pay for it? I'll give you that right now in cash. I was like, no, thank you. I like this thing too much. I can't sell it.
All right, sir. Hey, why don't we break for another song? You got 7 of them, so why don't you go?
Yeah, I got a few teed up. You want to hear a story? Yeah.
Hear a story, and then go ahead and tied to the song that you're about to perform. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, man. So this song is actually really interesting. Camp Southern Ground. I'm an alumni of their Warrior Song program. They get every year. They bring a bunch of songwriters who are veterans out to Zach Brown's camp here in Atlanta. It's just outside of Atlanta, and they basically put you through like a music industry boot camp. And I attended that program last year, which was great, and it was great for my mental health and my physical health. So great program, huge. If you ever have the opportunity to go out there, do one of their programs. They're fantastic in the most non-assuming ways. It's not like they're like really overly touchy or feely, but they just talk, and the way they talk to people it resonated with me for whatever reason. And so since I have left there, they've asked me to come back several times to work as a songwriter for some of their veterans programs. They hold what they call Warrior Week, which is a week-long veterans program to help veterans transition out of the military. And there's a songwriting component of that week. And so they actually hire me to come over and to sit with a couple of veterans and to come up with a song in about 2.5 hours, which for me is a little bit stressful because I don't normally write on such a strict timeline. But you sit there, you talk to them for a minute, you kind of figure out which way you're going, and you just got to get something on the paper to perform, and you have to perform it live right that moment, and they record it so that they can give it to the veterans to take with them as a memory.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Like don't do a bad job.
John, how many times have you done that, by the way, before you
I've done it twice, and I think I'm scheduled for 8 more already for next year because they had another spot open up for additional songwriter. So I did it twice as a fill-in, and
that's an album's worth of material.
Oh man, isn't that crazy? Yeah. That's something I have thought about. If I write a couple of good songs, I should really cut some of these songs as like hey man, like me and a bunch of guys that I met like that moment.
Yeah,
wrote those songs, which is it's very cool, and the last time I was there was a veteran named Brad, and he thought that everybody had to write their own song, and so he was thinking to himself, like, what am I going to write about? And I asked, he shared his idea with the group. There was, I think, 4 or 5 of us there, and he said, when I was in the Marine Corps, I used to write the condolence letters to the families after we lost a Marine. And I kind of looked around. I said, hey, does anybody else have an idea? And everybody else had nothing. And so I said, all right, well, that's the idea we're going to go with. But, this is a difficult song to write. It has to be, right? Because of what it's talking about. And so I asked him, I said, well, how do you start a letter to a family after something like that happens? And, he said, well, the first thing I would say is, dear sir or ma'am. And then I would basically just explain what happened. And so that was the opening line to our song, and we basically pieced the song together over the next couple hours together. And I got to the point where I thought, well, where do we want to go with this? Like, if you were that veteran, what would you want your family to know? And they said, hey, like they'd want to know that everything was going to be okay eventually, and that they will heal with time. And so we kind of wove that together for the chorus, and this is the song that we came up with, and we called it Dear Sir or Ma'am.
All right, John Hensley.
Dear sir or ma'am, words are hard to find. This is the worst part of my life, giving this news to you. We tried so hard. There's only so much you can do, and trouble just finds you on freedom's road. Where do I begin? Feels like I'm starting with the end. He was your son, he was my friend, and it's killing me. And if he were here here, I think he'd say, you know, war is a hell of a thing, but healing is on the way. It's just a matter of time. What is left to say when the tears fall down like rain? I'm right here, one call away. You can lean on me, and nothing can take the place what you lost to heaven's gate. But you gained many sons that day, my brothers and me. Where do I begin? Feels like I'm starting with the end. He was your son, he was my friend. It's killing me. If he were here, I think he'd say, you know, war is a hell of a thing, healing is on the way. It's just a matter of time. If he were here, I think he'd say, you know, war is a hell of a thing, healing is on the way. It's just a matter of time. Hey, thank you all.
John, thank you. That was beautiful. Wow. Hey, let's get into songwriting. We'll talk a little bit more about that process.
Yeah, man.
What do you enjoy most about being a songwriter?
I think I just like to finish the songs, because the thing I enjoy the least is starting one and not knowing where to go. So I think my favorite thing is being able to finish it and then share that with people, because it's difficult to create something, that's cohesive, that makes sense, and tells some sort of a story in such a short window. And if you think about songwriting as a process, it's much different than other types of writing. If you think about like writing short stories, even in a short story, you have pages to develop a plot line and to tell that story. In a song, you have about 3 minutes. And, about a minute and a half of that's probably going to be a chorus that you sing more than once. So you really have to be very concise and really descriptive in a very short amount of time. And so my favorite thing about songwriting is probably being able to finish one, because I've started dozens that just don't go where I want them to go. And that part is just, it's difficult to create but not get all the way there, And so to finish them is fun.
Well, I know that you were talking about, being on the receiving end of some of the stories that these veterans are sharing with you, which is almost, it probably is considered collaborative. Do you prefer collaboration over songwriting on your own?
It's nice to have a second set of ears sometimes, especially if somebody that that's a creative person. The majority of the writing I've done, I've kind of done by myself. But some of the songs I think that have turned out the best have been some I've worked on with some other people. Patrick Thompson, my bass player, and we wrote Billy Boudreaux together. I wrote the majority of it, and he just gave me, he's really good at editing. Patrick's great at saying, hey, you used 5 words there, you could have done it with 3. And that is very helpful when you're writing music, because you want to tell this elaborate story, which you would think you need a lot of words for, but sometimes you don't. You just need the right words. And so he makes me better in that he's a good editor. And then recently I sat down and I have a buddy up in Nashville, Joe West, and Joe's a Grammy Award-winning producer, and he's written a couple of number ones that other people have cut. And he's been just so gracious to me. I send him songs I write just because I want his input, because I've never written a hit song. So if you have somebody that has and is willing to give you advice, you should probably talk to them. And we recently sat down and kind of tweaked a couple of the ones that I've been working on, which is just super fun because it's interesting to hear his perspective on it. And he's a, kind of a rapid fire creator. When he has an idea, he just says it, and you can send it back or you can just sit on it for a minute and chew on it, which is fun. So both have their benefits, but sometimes it's good to have the other set of ears.
In the songs that you've written so far, whether you're you're doing this on your own or collaboratively, do you have like a percentage? Like, I've written 80% of my original songs and I collaborated with 20.
I would say I probably write 90% by myself. I've only had a handful that I've collaborated on. I don't, but they always turn out fine, but I'd like to get more into that. I have a couple people that I've wanted to write with because I appreciated the way they told stories, but it's difficult sometimes to sit down and write with people just because it's hard to make the time,
Yeah.
And when an idea strikes you, you have to kind of get on it because, my buddy Joe always says that, creativity is just fleeting. As soon as it comes to you, it goes away. So you have to like really get something down to be able to remember it so you can readdress it later,
Are you finding that there are essential skills to being a songwriter? Do you have to be like strong in creative writing, or do you need to know music theory? I mean, what are some of the
man,
you believe might be essential for songwriters?
I think being a good storyteller is what makes the best songwriter to me. I think you can tell a great story over 3 chords. As long as the story is compelling enough, it doesn't really matter what you play underneath it. You can get as technical and as difficult as you want, but some of the songs that people remember the most are the ones that are the simplest, just because they told the best story. And so, to me, that's the part of it that I like. To me, it's much easier to make up a story that's interesting than it is to synthesize some sort of a feeling. Like, hey, it's a love song about a girl. Like that to me is always harder to do for whatever reason. If I can just come up with a creative story about something that told a story of something, that to me is more fun. And those are the kind of the songs I like. I always thought like Blake Shelton, Old Red, I thought that was a great song just because it told a cool story. Johnny Cash songs, Folsom Prison, told great stories.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite songwriter out there, a commercial songwriter out there that is like just churning out the songs that you will definitely listen to? It's like, oh, that person wrote another song, I'm going to listen.
Yeah, I like, there's a guy named Tyler Childers who's out putting out music right now, and I think he's a great songwriter. Jason Isbell has had some tremendous songs that I just thought were great. I really like old songwriters. Like John Prine, I think is fantastic. I think he told the greatest stories. He's not the greatest musician, but he told the best stories. And there's songs of his that I remember exactly what I was doing when I heard them, that's special. Because like if you're doing something and you stop what you're doing to figure out what just happened, then they must have said something that struck somewhere. And his song, I remember the song I'm talking about from him is a song called Sam Stone, and it's about a Vietnam veteran who comes back and gets addicted to opioids and heroin. And I was washing dishes, and he said a line about a purple heart and a monkey on his back, and I said, what in the world just happened? I stopped what I was doing and I started the song over because I had to figure out what was going on, because it was like, that was absurd. I never heard a song that said something like that.
You're welcome to play a little bit of it for us.
Oh man, I don't know how to play it. I've never learned it.
Well, that's okay.
But if you ever have a moment, go back and listen to John Prine, because man, what a cool song Sam Stone is. It's if you've never heard it, and I tell you, he's an interesting guy to listen to too, because he talks in between his songs, and he said he wrote that song right at the outset of the Vietnam War and thought that it would not have any significance for probably 4 or 5 years after the war, and then nobody'd ever want to hear it, but everybody always asked for it. And he said that he figured out why later in his life. He said, I realized that America was always a country in conflict, and every generation has a Sam Stone. And so the song continues to be relevant, which is special because people are going to keep singing it. So
yeah, well, that's awesome. I mean, from a songwriter's perspective, taking a look at other songwriters, and really, I mean, if you're a guitar player, I know that for guitar players, it's kind of like we've got our guitar heroes. Songwriters, it's kind of like we do listen very closely to the lyrics and the story. And Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, listen, I know we are coming up. It's a 22 after the hour, and we have a few more. We at least a couple more songs, and then
Yeah,
yeah, I'd like to kind of talk a little bit more about some of the guitar related things that you've got for our guitar community here.
sure.
Before we get to that, how about another song?
Yeah, man, this is a song I've written. I wrote it earlier this year. I feel like it was around like maybe March or April. And a good buddy of mine who's also a little bit of a songwriter, he said, man, we should get together and write a Western tune. And I thought, man, that's a great idea. Because I love old Western movies. I love all that stuff. I think it's a great idea. And we just never made the time to sit down. And but I had this idea, and that it just stuck in my head for about 2 or 3 weeks. And I was like, I got to get this song down. And ironically enough, I learned how to play the song Jolene from Dolly Parton. And that's what sparked the creative juices of this particular song. So I wrote a Western song that, basically starts post-Reconstruction Civil War, and about a guy taking his family out west and all the things that happened when that happened. So this one's not released yet, but this will probably be on one of the ones I record when I do my next studio recording, because I think it was a cool tune, and I just thought it told a good story. So the song's called Back to Georgia.
All right, John.
1865's a year I'd just as soon forget. Hauled my family west with dreams of hope and land and wealth. There's no way of knowing the things that fate would have in store. Smallpox took my wife and boy, and a rattler stole my horse. Western sun sets much faster than I ever thought. It's my fault I ended up alone, and I got lost trying to find my way to heaven's gate. Can't believe how much my dreams cost. I'll tell the devil, oh no ill will toward you, if I could just get back to Georgia. Drown my pain in whiskey and my memories in cheap gin. Dodge City is where my family's laid. I can't go there again. Shot a man in cold blood, watched the light flee from his eyes. Contempt made me an outlaw, much to my surprise. Western sun sets much faster than I ever thought. It's my fault I ended up alone. I got lost trying to find my way to heaven's gate. I can't believe how much my dreams cost. Tell the devil, hold no ill will toward you, if I could just get back to Georgia. Train depot in Cheyenne's where I met my bitter end. Devil in black, he found me there, knew exactly where I'd been. He wore a star of silver, Texas Ranger was his name. Hauled my casket back to Georgia, where he put me in my grave. Western sun sets much faster than I ever thought. It's my fault I ended up alone, and I got lost trying to find my way to heaven's gate. I can't believe how much my dreams cost. I tell the devil, I hold no ill will toward you, if I could just get back to Georgia.
All right, John Hensley. Hey, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, cool one, huh?
Man, yeah. It is just being able to listen to the words. I mean, you've hooked me.
Oh man, thanks, dude.
I mean, yeah. It's storytelling is definitely one of the things that's a standout in the songs that you're presenting tonight for sure. The guitar part, the accompaniment, it looks relatively easy. I see that you're using a capo.
Yeah.
Are you using mostly open chords when you play?
Yeah, typically I don't play it. I mean, I do play some bar chords, but typically most of that stuff's in the open position. That particular song is kind of played out of the C major shape. And then I just, I add some embellishment, and the C shape's great for that because a lot of those notes that are right out of that, there's some bass walk-ups. And it's nice to be able to play, a lot of people learn how to play the G chord this way, which is great when you're learning because you can just go down to a C. But if you learn how to play this shape, it gives you the ability to grab these notes, and all these extra little embellishments that just add to what you're doing.
Yeah, those embellishments, you were doing the hammer-ons and pull-offs.
Yeah.
And you're using your second, third, and fourth finger to make the open chord itself.
Oh, yeah.
And free up that other finger to whatever you need.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that, when you start learning how to do stuff like that on guitar, it just opens up a whole new creative avenue for you because you can come up with different melody lines and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Is let's see, the C form that you're using, is that your favorite? Do you like to build your songs around that particular shape, or do you have, like, I use all? I mean, if you use all,
no, not really. It kind of just depends on what I was kind of going for feel wise for the song. I like to play out of D a lot as well, particularly if it's in drop D because you get those little hammer on.
That's sweet.
And all those little fun hammer on positions, and so I kind of, if I'm songwriting, I try to stay, either out of the C shape or obviously G, everybody's favorite. We call it the people's key. It's the most democratic. Everybody knows how to play there. And then D is probably my next one.
So, what was the greatest challenge in overcoming guitar for you? What was the one thing? It's like, God, it took me ever to learn how to do this, but I finally did it. Or maybe you're still working on it.
So I think the biggest hurdle that most people face early is bar chords. And you start learning, okay, I can play these open chords no problem, but then there's this one B minor. And this gives people fits when they're learning because they just can't quite figure out how to get the tension right on the back of the neck to get all the chord to ring out properly. And, to add insult to injury, they're probably playing a guitar that's not set up very well, and that doesn't help either. But I remember, for years, I would just be like, gosh, I wish I could play a B minor because I have all these songs that have this chord in there, and I just can't do them. And, and then I just got to where I was playing with other people, and the songs that we wanted to play always had them in there. And so I just like, hey, man, I just had to play a muddy chord for, a bunch of practices until I finally could get it to ring out properly. And then it's like anything else, the more you devote time to it, eventually it's just another thing. That once that hurdle of bar chord got out of there, I was like, okay, now I'm ready to go, because there's just too many songs that have that shape in it that you have to be able to play. Especially if you're playing, live music for people, because it's an important chord. And then once you have that opened up, you can just play all sorts of stuff.
Now you're using the I don't know how many songs you have been using it.
Yeah.
But what was your challenge in using that when you first started? Because it's kind of like, well, instead of having to bar this all the time, I'm going to use a capo. Then what?
Yeah, so I kind of learned to play with a capo because I saw a lot of people doing it, and there's some kind of weird like stigma about using it, particularly for live performance and not just playing a different chord variation. But sometimes it's just more practical to use a capo, and sometimes if you really listen to the songwriters and what they're going for and how they're playing, they use it so they can get access to some of those hammer-on positions that we were doing earlier, because you open up a different world of embellishments. If you let's say you wanted to play the song in E, if you capoed on the 4th fret and you played out of the C shape, you open up embellishments, and sometimes those are like signature parts of those songs, and you can only access them really effectively if you're playing it with the capo on. And we talked a little bit about CCR earlier, and John Fogerty, one of my favorite songwriters, wrote a song that Chris Stapleton covered that was a hit for him but I don't think really anybody heard it when John did it. And the song is called Joy of My Life, and it's got this little riff in it. She's playing an F, a C, little embellishment. And, you know, that riff is like the signature part of the song, but you can only play it if you're playing with the capo on, because that's what he's playing. He's playing these embellishments off of that chord. And so, you know, there's that stigma about using a capo, man, and I've seen professional players that use them. I'm talking like world-class players, and, you know, sometimes it's the best tool for the job. What are you doing to serve the song, you know?
Really? Yeah, I mean, it's another way of looking at it is, okay, the guitar is accompanying you. And it's going to be something that is going to hinder you.
Sure.
Maybe you ought to throw the capo on and make it easier for you. So, you know,
yeah.
Which leads me to singing.
Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge to learn to sing and play at the same time?
Oh, yeah. I think transitioning between chords was probably the biggest thing, because people start out and, you know, you'll start to play and you'll get a rhythm going with your hand. Like, and I'm singing and now I'm changing my chord, and it just sounds broken up because they're trying to figure out your brain's doing more things than it's used to. And so, you know, learn how to transition those chords smoothly and maintain the rhythm that you're at. And for whatever reason, rhythm just kind of came naturally to me. I've taught a couple of lessons to people before, and I just assumed that everybody had it instinctively, but that's not the case. And to have to explain it to somebody was kind of a foreign concept to me. I didn't realize that he couldn't just do it. And I think the biggest thing is to kind of get your head out of the mix. When you, tap your foot to the song, find the rhythm, and then let your hand go. You know, like, don't think too much about this. Just let it be what it is.
Autopilot.
If it feels like it's there, you know, and it's a feeling thing more than it is a super cognitive. Because if you listen to how I play a song, I'll never play it exactly like, I probably won't play it the same way twice ever. But I'll play something that is appropriate and that stays in time.
Yeah, we're finding that at least in some of the live events that I do the iJam play along, and I do get to see some of our students play. Some of them attempt to do the singing as well too.
Yeah.
And I think that the strumming piece is the challenging part for them. And before they can actually tackle the singing piece, getting the strumming piece down. And once that's done, I've actually seen some of our students make that step to the vocals, the singing, and all that. And when they achieve that, it's glorious to watch. So obviously it takes a while. I mean, you have to keep singing. You got to get really comfortable with the strumming.
Yeah.
Once that memory, the muscle memory kicks in, then give a shot at singing. But and keep at it. I guess
for sure.
Really the lesson here. Well, listen, we are coming up on pretty much the end of the show here pretty soon. But hey, you have at least one more song in you?
I'll play you one more.
Leave us with.
This one is hot off the presses, man. We just finished this one up the other day.
All right.
And this is one that my buddy Joe West helped me on. He was very gracious to help me improve the quality of my song. So,
and this hasn't been released anywhere, right?
No, this has not been heard. You're the first people to hear it. I think I played it at a bar last weekend, and but there was like 40 people there, so you know you're like in the top 50.
All right. Way to go.
This is a cool song. I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out.
All right, John.
Came home to a note on the table, lying under an empty bottle of Jim Beam. Her ashtray stacked high with crushed cigarettes, stained with lipstick and broken down dreams. It read she waited on me for the last time. True love's never felt so empty. In the blink of an eye, she was crossed the state line without regret or a decent night's sleep. She's headed west to Tulsa, where the wildflowers grow. Cross hanging from the mirror, a preacher on the radio. She finally found her reason to leave this walk away, Joe. She's headed west to Tulsa, and I let her go. You know it broke me knowing that I lost her. I was lying there drowning in grief, was ready to change, but it was just too damn late before I'm sorry to mean anything. She's headed west to Tulsa, where the wildflowers grow. Cross hanging from the mirror, a preacher on the radio. She finally found her reason to leave this walk away, Joe. She's headed west to Tulsa, and I let her go. Here's your B minors. West to Tulsa, where the wildflowers grow. Cross hanging from the mirror, a preacher on the radio. She finally found her reason to leave this walk away, Joe. She's headed west to Tulsa, and I let her go.
All right. Hey, John, what's the name of that song?
It's called West to Tulsa.
Right. And we were the first.
You guys are up there like top 50. Maybe they've heard it. Yeah, that's cool. It's got some cool ones in there. I got a B minor. I got a D with a 7. That's important. There's a 7 in there. And then there's a A major, which is not in the key. It's a major 2, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I guess in the answer to the question of does a songwriter really need to know music theory?
Sometimes.
Yeah,
because sometimes you get a feeling out of a note that may not actually be there. It's not necessarily in the major scale or the scale that the song is in, but sometimes you borrow those notes and it creates a tension or a release or something that just moves you in a certain way or makes you feel a certain way when you hear it. And that stuff is helpful.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you for everything that you've shared with us tonight. The songs, they're incredible. Got to hear a couple of them for before release, which we thank you for.
Yeah.
The stories, amazing, incredible. They were really enjoyable. Can you tell us where we can find your music, your gigging schedule, your recording, if you have any merchandise?
Oh, man, I need to get some merch because that is the best way to make money to record songs. I don't have any, but I need to get some. So for my schedule, you can look, I'm on Facebook. John Hensley is my personal profile. You can always add me as a friend. I have gotten followers like that, which is kind of weird. I never thought that'd be a thing I'd have. I do have a dedicated music Facebook page that's John Hensley Music. And I try to post a schedule there, usually at the beginning of the month. I haven't been great about it recently, but I try to post a monthly schedule out there so people can see it. And I'm also on Instagram, and I believe it's John Hensley 1443. But if you look for a guy named John Hensley and the picture looks suspiciously like me, it's probably me. And then I think I'm on TikTok too, but I couldn't tell you what my name on there is. It's something with my name. I don't know. I think I'm too old for that platform, so I don't really understand what's happening. I'm not a 14-year-old girl, so it's tough, man.
I'm glad you knew that because
it took me a minute to figure it out. That's why I'm an investigator. All the obvious stuff sticks out. Yeah.
another. We got to have you back for more. Actually, intriguing. Some of the things that we've covered in your songwriting, especially.
Yeah, man.
It's like we'd love to kind of parse that a little bit. Any parting words of wisdom, first of all, to the aspiring guitar player, the guitar learner, and also to the songwriter?
Yeah, man, I would just say keep at it. You know, if you see somebody that you respect as a musician or a player or a singer or a songwriter for that matter, what you're seeing in that moment is the culmination of thousands of hours of work that you don't see. Nobody learns how to do it overnight. You know, there's just, I can't, I mean, every night I was in Iraq, I'd probably play for an hour every single day. Because that was kind of my downtime wind down, you know. But, you know, the way to really get good is to practice. There's not something that's special or innate about it. It's just work that you see that, you know, you haven't seen is all it is. Everything is a lot simpler than it seems. You know, find yourself a teacher to get you going in the right direction and then just put in the work. And as a songwriter, same thing. You know, I never thought I could write songs. And, you know, the first song I ever released got played on the radio. I never would have thought I would be able to say that. But, again, it's, you know, there were songs I wrote that didn't go anywhere. Nobody ever heard them, you know. And that's what got me to that one. And so, yeah, just keep at it, man, you know. You never know what's going to happen. Don't be afraid to try, you know. Sometimes you may surprise yourself and everybody around you. So
that's awesome. Thanks again. It was a real pleasure talking with you. And maybe you'd like to come back and talk a little more about your musical journey, your singer-songwriter career, where it's going. And when you have merch, let us know, because man, go ahead and get that information out to everyone.
Yeah, and my original songs, I did forget to mention, they are available on all the streaming platforms. So if you look up John Hensley or John Hensley and the Liberty Road Band, again, there'll be a guy on the album cover that looks suspiciously like me. And I'd love if you guys listen to them and share them with a few 100,000 of your closest friends. So,
of course.
Yeah, man. So thank you all.
Hey, John, can you stick around a few minutes after we go off the air here? Give the opportunity for our guitar learners and songwriters in training an opportunity to kind of pick your brain a little bit, if you could do that for us.
Sure.
All right. In the meantime, thank you all for watching Song Sung True, A Veteran's View. We hope you enjoyed our conversation with U.S. Army veteran and Georgia singer-songwriter John Hensley. On the next episode of Song Sung True, A Veteran's View, we'll be joined by U.S. Air Force veteran and Colorado Springs singer-songwriter Joe Allen Christie, someone who we got to talk with earlier a few months back on an episode that featured Mr. Hero Stock himself, Jason Steiner. This time, Joe gets the entire hour, and he'll sing some of his originals too. It's Wednesday, November 13th, 5:30 a.m. Pacific. Until then, be sure to check out our live event programming schedule at the Guitar Service Learning Center for our monthly iJam play-along, G4V Guitar Shop, the G4V Guitar Brigade, and much more. cavarts.org. It's open to all veterans and no cost to join. For Guitars for Vets and CavArts, the Challenge America Veteran Arts Community, I'm Tom Lamog. Thanks again for watching. Good night.